Hello, I'm Chaplain Melinda Zalma, U.S. Navy Reserve Component, live in New York City, attached to Marine Corps Training and Education Command out of Quantico, Virginia. This holiday of Purim can be easily summed up by saying, "They sought to kill us, we persevered, now let's eat and drink." Purim is a tale told in Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther. It is one of intrigue and hiddenness, where all is turned upside down. It all started in the ancient kingdom of Persia, in its capital Shushan, around the year 475 BCE, before the Common Era, when Queen Vashti refused the order of King Ahasuerus to come before him to dance at the banquet he was giving, dancing in her crown, some say only in her crown. When she refused, she is banished from the kingdom. Some say she is executed. And King Ahasuerus must find a new wife. After a long search, Esther, a Jewish woman, is selected as the queen. Her uncle and guardian, Mordecai, tells her not to reveal that she is Jewish when she is in the palace, and so she doesn't. Mordecai is a very upstanding man. He stands up for what he believes and makes the right choices. He overhears a plot to kill the king and sends that report back to the king via Queen Esther, and the plot is foiled. And while Haman, King Ahasuerus' second in command, demands that all bow down to him, Mordecai refuses because he is a Jew. Now this quite disturbs and angers Haman, who vows not only to kill Mordecai, but all the Jewish people. And to do so, he decides to cast a lot, a pour, from which Purim, the word Purim comes from, to determine which date. And he does, the 15th of Adar. Now, as you can imagine, Mordecai and Esther are quite distressed about this, and Mordecai presses Esther to go to the king to save her people. But she is frightened to do so, for if one appears before the king unasked, then they may lose their head or their life. But Mordecai says to her, "Do not imagine that you, of all the Jews, will escape your life by being in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you keep silent in this crisis, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained this royal position for just such a crisis." Esther is swayed and asked Mordecai and the Jews of Persia to fast 3 days before she goes. Her audience in front of the king is successful, though instead of asking the king to save her people, she invites him and Haman to a banquet or two. And at the second of this banquet, Esther finally reveals her identity and the plot and asks that her people be saved. It is quite an interesting and fun scene in the Torah, in the Tanakh, one of my favorites in the Jewish Bible, worthy of a melodramatic play. So the story ends happily for the Jews throughout Persia, where all is reversed. The plot against them is reversed, and instead of being massacred, they stand up and fight back in defense and kill quite a lot of people who are coming at them. This happens, of course, on the 15th of Adar. The second, though it continues for a second day in the capital of Shushan, where they get permission to continue to fight. Permission from the king, that is. Haman and his sons are impaled on stakes, one of which was Haman had put up to kill Mordecai. Things are reversed and turned upside down. There are scrolls sent out throughout the kingdom of Persia declaring the festival to be held every year. When the story is told, mishloach manot, packages of food are given to friends, and matnot liavionim, gifts to the poor, are given out. These are things we continue to this day. You may have noticed that I didn't mention God's name at all when I told the story. That is because God's name is not in the Megillat Esther. It is part of the hiddenness of Purim, that behind everything, even though it is not explicit, there is God. Perhaps that is similar in our lives. Now, the observance of what we do now for Purim comes, as I said, from the story itself. We tell the story. On the night Erev Purim, we read the Megillah from a scroll, just as the announcement of the festival written on scrolls back in ancient Persia. And we have a lot of fun when doing it. We dress up to bring our inner out, to create hidden, turn things upside down. You can interpret it many ways. And as we read the Megillah, we use a gerager whenever Haman's name comes up. A gerager is just a noisemaker, and actually you can use many different things for that. Stamp your feet, clap your hands, boo, whatever you'd like. And this comes from the commandment in the Torah, in Exodus, to blot out the memory of Amalek, because Haman is a descendant of Amalek. The Amaleks attacked the end of the Israelites, the back of the trail of Israelites who had left Egypt, attacking the weak and the eldest. And because of their cruelty, God says we must blot out their memory. And so we do on Purim. We also read the story in the scroll on the next morning. And there is a Suda, a meal, a festive meal, where lots of joyousness and silliness is to be had, and lots of drinking, if alcohol is something you drink. It is said that one is supposed to get so drunk that one cannot tell the difference between cursing Haman and blessing Mordechai, but that is just a tradition, it is not a law. But there's a lot of fun to be had at a Purim Suda, and often a Purim Spiel is done that. A Spiel is just a play, a silly play, sometimes poking fun at one's leaders, one's teachers, one's rabbi, one's institution, where everything is open. Things as things in the story are turned upside down, so we turn things upside down in our Purim Spiel. We also send Mishloach Manot, often with Hamantashen, in Hebrew, Oznei Haman, ears of Haman, because Haman supposedly had a three-corner hat, and so we're eating Haman's hat or ears, depending on how you look at it. So you would put that with at least one other type of food, and give at least two to your friends. People distribute them all over. And then also to give matanot levionim, to give presents in the form of tzedakah or food to the poor. Sometimes synagogues or communities gather them together, or when you're walking on the street and somebody asks you for money, you are supposed to give them money no matter what, even if you might not usually do so. And it is a time for fun, a time for dressing up, turning things upside down, letting loose a bit, because everybody needs a balance. Everybody needs different sides of their life. And that is how we engage in Purim. I hope you take the time to go back and read the story. It is quite fun to read and interesting. And I hope you have an enjoyable Purim celebration.